I think about you all the time.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, Leslie, you and I first met whenever we were both trying to learn Hindi through
What?
the I Speak Hindi project.
Yes, and I think you weren't trying. You were like right on. I'm still struggling. I developed seizures and haven't had any in a few years now, thank goodness. But I did, and that moved me away from my Hindi studies. So I'm just now getting to where I want to get back into it. So anyway, but yes, that's how we met.
Seizures. That's awful. Uh, yeah, they're very dangerous. Seizures are.
Yes,
So, um, yeah. I don't think the seizure itself is dangerous. It's
it's the where you fall.
yes, that is that is where
Yes.
it's at. Um, I actually had a friend, a really close friend from high school, who had seizures, and uh, unfortunately, he fell in a way that he wasn't able to recover from. So that's
I can
um,
understand that. I think mine was temporary. I think it was actually brought on by some medication that I was being given, but there's no way to prove it one way or the other. So I take Keppra every day, and I haven't had any problems and forever. And I'm very thankful. I think I am blessed. So I'm gonna just keep trucking. But yeah, I'm only mentioning it because at that point I was having problems just actually seeing the I could never say this word right, the Devonry symbols, I was having a really hard time even looking at it, much less focusing on continuing my learning. So now I'm totally back, but now I'm so busy. Timing is difficult. So at some point we'll have to chat. I'd love to find out what happened with I Speak Hindi and you know how your life is progressing. But I know that's not why you wanted to get together. So I'm ready to answer your questions whenever you are.
right. Well, um, actually, I see this kind of series of interviews as a chance to kind of have an excuse to explore humanity and the human connection. You have people all around you that have all sorts of interesting things to say and to teach you, but you have no excuse to kind of talk, or framework to kind of talk within. So while I am really interested in, did you know that we were going to the moon in 2024 or not? I also see that it's just kind of like a conversation starter to break the ice to talk about these other things as well.
I,
Um,
I I agree with you. You're still as amazing as you were when I first met you.
oh, you're very kind. I, uh, I I'm just me. Whether or not it's amazing or not, it's a personal, a matter of personal taste. So I'm glad I'm the right flavor for you.
Yeah, you are. You're perfect. I always thought you had a great heart and just were a really great human being. And just could tell by our few minutes that you still are. And being you, as they say, you do you because it's just right.
Awesome. And it's the easiest thing to do too. It's
It
hard to
is.
be somebody else.
Yes, it totally is. I agree with you on that. So, how's
Um,
the family, real quick? How's your family doing?
oh my gosh, I was just thinking yesterday about how this year went so differently than anything I could have imagined.
Yes.
My oldest son, he was away to school at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh,
Oh,
and we would see him, during like Christmas and kind of spring break, and maybe in the summer. And then I was planning to kind of go. One reason I create this project is because I work from home before everybody else did. Now
mm.
you say you work from home, they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So do we.
Yeah, I know.
They're like, who doesn't? But
Mhm.
back in December when I started this project, working from home wasn't as universal as it is now, and I had been doing it for 2 years, and I realized that I could easily stick at home and only spend time with family and wouldn't actually see people besides family in person. So I was planning to do all these interviews with people at the coffee shop or at the mall or what have you, with random strangers, chance
Mhm.
to kind of like break the ice and stuff. So that's kind of different. But I have my oldest son at home, um, and my youngest son at home, I think both of those have been a real kind of blessing. It's like, one more year with both of them that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Mhm.
But it's been a scary year too because, I don't know what you think about it, but I think if we didn't have those images coming out of northern Italy in March, with like this idea of bodies piling up, and all these military vehicles, and people saying that they had dead people in like their room that nobody would go and take away and stuff. I feel like if we didn't have that, we probably would have not had the same reaction that we've had. And I was wondering if other people maybe shared that opinion, and what you think.
You know what? I agree with that. Although I'll counter that with I think that we have not had as much reaction as we should. I think seeing that and seeing what was happening over there, and Italy happens to be very close to my heart. I have very, very dear friends in Fiumicino. And so seeing what was going on there and how they were locked out of the country and all that stuff and the bodies and all that, yeah, it absolutely made me stand up and pay attention. That's for sure. And I think several people as well. However, I think there are also, we have so many conspiracy theorists in this country that really harped on the fact that this is all a conspiracy and, don't really wear your mask and don't do this and don't do that. And I don't know. I think this has been it's been a great joiner, if you will, but it's also been a great divider. In the fact that we're able to spend more time with people, even if it's distance, as weird as it sounds, and of course, more time with family. And at the same time, I think there's a division between people who pay attention and people who are, and forgive me, Nathan, you're such a good man. I'm going to just blurt this out, but people who are self centered versus community centered. And I see so many people that, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that or that's an infringement on me. And at the same time, I once got so angry, I actually typed something out in my Nextdoor app. It's like, so where do your rights end and mine begin? Like, really? I have health issues. I have to be careful. If I'm not careful, I will die from this thing. And so, if you don't want to wear a mask or if you don't want to take precautions, then you're actually threatening my life. And so, therefore, wouldn't my rights to live come into place? I'm not asking to go sit at a bar and have alcohol with you or with somebody else. I'm not asking to even go sit in a restaurant, but I have to go buy my groceries. So at least to that point. So yes, I think that helped people to really get it, and I think it finally got our government moving along to an extent. And I also think that a lot of people didn't pay attention at the same time. So that's just a real mixed up, jumbled, nutty answer.
That's always been a kind of a thorny question about where one person's rights begin, and another person's where they end and where somebody else's begin. um, Kind of the lesson, the way it was kind of boiled down to me growing up was your right to swing your arms ends whenever you hit somebody else. It's like you can
Yeah.
swing them as much as you want, and so obviously a person standing in the middle of like a field with nobody around them, from that extent has more freedom than somebody that's in a crowded elevator, where just moving a couple of inches in either direction uh, runs into somebody.
Hmm.
and and
Exactly.
and so that kind of is something to keep in mind, is that actions have different impact on other people depending upon context. And you kind of, while you may be free to do something in some place, you're not able to. I mean, like for example, if you're in the middle of Montana, go set up a rifle range and practice target practice all day. But if you're in the middle of New York, probably not something you should be doing.
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I think I've come to the conclusion this year that it's really, I think too many people are hung up on rights, and I know that that's what I mentioned, because that's the language that's being used. But I think in a lot of ways we're all hung up on rights, and what we've forgotten is common decency.
Yes.
and being able to really care for our neighbors. You know, we've gotten into a place in this country where, you know, when I grew up, we knew all the neighbors and they all knew us. And God forbid you should do anything wrong because four people were calling your mom, you know, so you couldn't get away with anything because everyone was keeping an eye out for everyone. And today we don't even know our neighbors. I mean, to tell you the names of the people who live next door is difficult for most people. And so I think because of that, we've lost sight of, you know, what I would call common decency of really caring for the other humans in our sphere, in our world. And that's the piece that would be nice to get back because it's not about if you have a right to wear a mask or not wear a mask. It's not about do you have a right to do this or do I have a right and where mine starts. It's about, you know what, I want to protect you, so I'm going to do this because I want to be a good citizen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're seeing here is that there are a large number of people that simply do not care about people who aren't them or in their group and however they define that.
Yeah.
I mean, you see this, at a local area where, neighbors don't know each other, they only care about their own household. But then you see it kind of like at a national level where it's like, America first, and the problems of the world are other people's problems. And we can't solve everybody's problems for sure, but at the same token, if we don't create, I mean, even within our own nation, I swear half the country be really happy if the other half went off someplace else. And I mean, it feels like half the country wants to jettison the other half. And it's not geographically divided. It's like intermixed. It's like it seems really dangerous.
I believe that. I think it is really dangerous. You know, the days that we could sit down and have an open discussion with differing viewpoints are gone. It seems to me, and it's, you know, you and I could have a discussion and we could differ 100% on our viewpoints, but we don't have to come to a compromise or a solution in between. We can just literally talk about and explore and learn, you know, oh, that's interesting, Nathan. I would love to hear the background of where that opinion came from, you know, and my background of my opinion is this. So it's interesting to sort of explore that, just like it's interesting to explore different cultures and get to know different areas. And you're right, on an international level, it's horrible. This whole immigration thing. I mean, the whole thing with Mexico drove me crazy, you know. And I'm sorry, I'm going to get off on a tangent for 2 seconds here, but it made me nuts. These people are walking thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, because they are being murdered and slaughtered in their own countries. They have children, they have families, they want to be in a safe place. Everybody wants their family in a safe place. Yes, swimming across a river is not a good idea, but still seeking refuge makes sense. I would do it. You know, we've got people. I love the new movie, the new show on TV, Transplant. I don't know if you've seen it with the Syrian doctor. Oh, it's fabulous. I highly recommend it. Um, if you get a chance, take a look at it. But the doctor is from Syria, and he's accustomed to practicing medicine in an environment where there's bombs going off everywhere, where there's no hospitals, where he doesn't have the luxury and the ability to use all the tools that the doctors have here. And so he can literally come in and save people with saws and drills and all kinds of stuff. But it all points back to the Syrian war and what's going on there. And I've met several people from Syria, and I'm like, you know, I don't blame them. These people are giving up lives that where they were professionals and coming here and delivering pharmaceuticals to people at their homes, making $10 an hour because they want a safe haven for their family. And why people can't grasp that and understand that makes me nuts. And I'm not saying we let everybody in, but there's got to be a way that we can vet people and really help those that are having a difficult time, that want to seek a better life. I mean, there's room here for people.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at, like on the southern border where we're like taking away children from their parents and holding them completely separate, and you talk to some people about that and are like, well, their parents knew not to come here. It's just like complete disconnect. How do we value children? And you know, it just seems like complete lack of humanity in terms of that, like, because they're seen as being other people, we could treat them however we want. And, if it was our own children in like some other country, I mean, I could just imagine having like some paperwork mix up trying to get into some country and they like separate the children from the adults. I mean, what kind of international outcry would there have been with that?
Yeah.
It's just like,
I know, Nathan. Let's get together and go save the world.
well, I think it's really up to people who are motivated and interested in that. And,
Yeah.
um, you know, uh, yeah, I mean, I, uh, people trying to do impossible things inspire other people that can make them happen.
Yes, yes, yes. There's just so much that needs to be done, and I don't know. I believe that change starts right here, and I have to live the life that I want people around me to live, and so I try and live according to that. And most of the time, I'm pretty good at it. Sometimes, we all slip. So
When it's just so much to absorb. Um, I mean, how much of our day-to-day activities is dictated by kind of habit or what we see around us, what we're taught, to really like investigate an activity and try to figure out the best way to perform in that space is really time consuming
mhm,
and really difficult, especially if your answers are different than sort of the norms around you.
mhm.
Um, so it's kind of there was that saying, choose your friends, you choose your future, because you're ultimately going to be shaped by the people you hang around. That's
Yes. Yeah, what is it? You're the sum of the five people you spend the most amount of time with.
exactly. And not all those people are necessarily alive and breathing around you. Some
Right.
of them are people that you kind of reanimate from books and from other experiences. So
Yes.
you're not necessarily left with just living human beings that live next to you. So
Exactly. Oh, we have to get together sometime and spend some time and chat again.
absolutely, I can't wait until this COVID-19 thing is over. Talking about kind of like mask wearing and stuff. I mean, it's just amazing. I keep thinking, uh, it's such a minor thing to do, even if as long as it doesn't hurt and it has the potential of helping, like where's the problem? And,
Right.
so it's
I
kind
know it's so simple, and yet
of,
there are people who don't want to do it. But I could go off on many little tangents. It's like when they installed the red light cameras and how
yeah.
that was fought, and they had to take them down. Well, it was amazing that same intersection accident rates went down once those cameras were installed, and then when they were removed it went back up. So that says to me that that is a safety precaution that was good for the whole community. Maybe not for the guy running the light, but it was good for the whole community. So, why do we want to fight something that's good for the community, wherein the person who fought it could be the person in the intersection when the other guy runs the light and kills him? You know? I mean, so like I said, I could go on. There's so many things that I look at, and thank goodness I do have a real positive outlook, and I do have my glass really is half full. Although I'm telling you all the whiny stuff right now, but I know that at some point in time things are going to be better, and so that's
Yeah.
the day I'm waiting for.
And I feel like 90% of the people around us are really good, are neutral. Maybe even higher percentage than that, but they're
Yeah,
also very much, they're not interested in getting in the spotlight or, um, you know, uh, those types of things. So I mean, I think people are generally they won't buck trends or norms, generally speaking. But if you get a flat tire, they'll come out and help you.
right.
Yeah. So.
Exactly. I don't know what music you listen to, but there is a song by Luke Bryan, and it's called "I Believe Most People Are Good." It's one of
Luke
my
Bryant.
Luke Bryan, yeah, Bryan. He's a modern country artist, but this song I love it because he talks about he believes most people are good, and if the news is the only thing you see, you're not going to believe this. And then he believes that all mothers should be given sainthood. But this song is just such an upbeat, happy kind of like song that reshifts the focus on the fact that yes, most people are good. Don't let those. We had a saying in New York when I lived in New York. It was funny. It was like there are only two buttheads in the whole world. They just move around a lot.
Yes,
So you
everybody
bump.
talks about them.
Yeah, you bump into them, more than you should, because they're always like there, but there's only a couple, and so I still think that's the same thing. So tell me, what got you in this whole like moon thing? Tell me what made all this happen. What is it that you're doing?
What is it I'm doing? Okay, so I mean so my interest in space goes way back to my childhood. Um, I mean, watched Star Trek growing up. My dad used to take me to the Johnson Space Center when I was in elementary school, and we used to. Back then, there wasn't Space Center Houston. Like there was no guard gate either. You just park in the same parking lot like all the employees, and
Hmm.
all the exhibits were in the buildings that people worked in scattered throughout the campus. So you have to go to this one building to see like the Skylab mock-up, and this other building to see the moon rocks, and this other, and you ate in the same cafeteria with like the employees and the astronauts, and you know you're there sitting at a table that's probably a couple of tables away from people uh, that have literally walked on the moon, and you're
Hmm.
just like an everyday experience. So that was really neat compared to sort of this Disney World theme park type
Yeah.
of thing that you have now with complete separation between the visitors. I mean, it's unavoidable after all the security issues that we've had. And, I guess that really kind of talks back to kind of like what you were talking about the community. I mean, there was a time when we trusted each other,
Yes.
and you felt safe when the guy calling you up on the phone and saying he's from Microsoft and he's trying to help you with a computer problem might have actually been legit at some point.
Right. Exactly.
A little public service announcement. They're
Yes.
not from Microsoft. Okay, for anybody that's watching this.
I love it. Yes, and I remember Space Center Houston back then, by the way, because I actually went back then too. So
Yeah, but
I remember NASA, I should say, not Space Center Houston. Let me correct myself.
so I was born in '75, 3 years after the last person to walk on the moon came back. But for some reason, I always envision us kind of like branching out into space. And the more and more I think about it, uh, it's just amazing. I mean, like that's Earth from the moon. I can't
Hmm.
really point with the background, but you
I
can
can
kind of
see it.
see it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's a little bitty ball. And I mean, can you imagine having like this huge mansion and everybody just stays in like this one little bitty room at the beginning and they don't go and explore everything else? I mean,
Hmm.
um, the sun is produces so much energy, and only about 1/700th billionth of it actually falls on the Earth.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, if you created like a satellite that went around the Earth that had all these solar panels, you could actually solve all of the energy needs for humanity for a long time.
Oh wow.
So, and I mean, how much discovery and like innovation has come from like sort of like that spark of inspiration or a gut feeling. Somebody that saw something that nobody else really thought about. And I wonder, you know, we all pretty much live with a 24-hour day. We have one um, a G of gravity pulling us to the earth. We live with like one atmosphere of pressure. Um, and we all kind of have the same life. And I just wonder, as we start moving humans to other places that have very different lives, if they won't be able to see some things that are actually fairly obvious, but we kind of have our intellectual blinders on.
Hmm.
And I mean, just think about electromagnetism. If we've never discovered radio waves, uh, what kind of world would we be in now? It's just there's like some fundamental discoveries I think we have to make. But and I, I just um, I just feel like it's such a more inspirational story. Humanity branching out into the solar system, into the universe, and on and beyond. Um, it just I mean, from my standpoint, how could you not get excited about it? But it's a little difficult to get people excited about when it costs so much to do so little, and we have so many other things going on.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking this ties into the conversation that we were having, where that half of the population that wants the half to go away, one half could go to the moon and live,
Well, that's
do their
true.
own thing.
That's true. I think though they were more likely willing to fund the other half going to the moon.
We'd have a battle over who's going.
I know. Actually, I was, there was a Netflix documentary that came out recently about the Challenger disaster in uh,
Yes.
1986. And Jerry Seinfeld did a skit talking about how people were losing kind of interest in the space program and, who was going. And his skit was, what if you sent somebody that didn't want to go? And you're like dragging him to the shuttle and he's like trying to grab when all the door jams and
Hmm.
stuff. So that kind of was a little humorous part of that.
Yes. That, yeah, I didn't see that, but I'll have to look that up. But yeah, I remember the whole shuttle incident. I'm actually 15 years older than you. I hate to admit, I was born in 1960, and I actually remember the first man on the moon. I remember when they landed. When I went to NASA, it was amazing. It was amazing to me to know that the control from that was coming from Houston, from down in the South Houston area. Now, I wasn't old enough to comprehend that at the time. It was when I got a little older that I got more comprehension because if I remember right, I was 6, 7 years old. Was it 1967 that they walked on the moon, if I remember right?
69 was the
69,
first time.
okay.
Yep.
Yes, and so actually, I was old enough then to comprehend that. But I remember the trips before that where they didn't actually go to the moon and they would land in the ocean. They would leave from Florida, be controlled from Houston, and then splash down in California. And they would be quarantined for a period of time. And so I remember all of that stuff. So it was the shuttle was very sad when that happened. It was literally I was at work and we just all sat around the TV watching it, watching the launch. And then suddenly the rest of the day was shot because we were just in disbelief. And then it seems like it wasn't too long after that that the interest in space travel started falling. And I always thought it was really cool that they would take medical experiments up there and do medical experiments with zero gravity. And so I don't know. I don't know if that would be any good for what we're facing now or not, but that would be kind of an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah, definitely. So you would have been about 9 whenever Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were first stepping foot on the moon. I mean, do you remember kind of what you were thinking about that at the time? I mean, how did that impact your life at all?
Well, you're going to laugh because the first thing I remembered that I thought about was how on earth are they getting such great picture from the moon?
Now,
Being broadcasting. Go ahead.
yeah, it's funny you say that. I have talked to 2 people who doubt we ever went to the moon. And
Really?
what they say is the pictures look so phony to them.
That's interesting because for me, I was like, wow, this is a very clear picture. Considering that is coming from the moon, I thought that was very interesting. I also was very thrilled, and forgive me, I don't keep this all in my head. I forget which one was the first one to put his foot on the moon, but I remembered being very thrilled for him being able to say, I am the first human being ever to have done this. I was very thrilled when the flag was planted at the time. I thought we've left our mark there. That's an amazing thing. The bringing back the rocks. That when I went to NASA, the one thing I wanted to see was the moon rocks that they brought back. So those are the things that I remember is collecting the rocks. I remember thinking what an honor it was, and how this is going to sound terrible, but how it would have, excuse my French, sucked to have been number two
I
to
know.
put my foot on the moon, because I wouldn't have the ability to say I was the first, but still, and yet it was the first trip where somebody walked on the moon, but still, I was thinking, oh, that number two would not be as fun as number one. Um, and just really the clarity of the broadcast for me was amazing. I just didn't expect it to be clear at all. But I can double that up. My gosh, I can double that up with the fact that I remember Vietnam and the pictures coming from Vietnam and how clear those were. And then today I look at how they broadcast and you're getting all kinds of problems and it's not clear. And I'm thinking, now how did we do this for the moon and how do we do this for Vietnam, and we cannot get a clear picture in Montrose today on the news? But yeah, that's really what my big memories were, is that, oh, let me turn this off. My good Lord, what the heck?
Well, I did. It is 1 o'clock. I didn't know if you had more time or if you needed to go.
You know what? I can spend a little more time. Okay,
Well,
so we
uh,
can get into what you actually called for.
yeah. Let me know when you run out of time. I figure maybe 15 more minutes if
Yeah,
that'll work.
that
Okay.
that's fine. Yes.
So what did you think about us stop going to the moon? I mean, like in 1972 was the last trip we sent to the moon, and after that we haven't been back since sending people. Uh, what do you think about that?
Actually, it's funny because I didn't understand it, and bearing in mind that I was old enough to sort of, have a cognitive approach to thought, about that. And I didn't understand that because when the first guys walked on the moon, I thought that the idea was to continue to explore the moon as well as to continue to do different types of experiments. Whether they're medical experiments or biological or whatever they are, I really thought that that was the purpose, not just to go and come back and be done. So for me, I was like, why did we spend all that money as a nation to go there and then not do anything with it? You know, it, to me, not carrying on was a waste. It was not a waste to go, but it was a waste not to carry on with any specific plan or mission. And in my view, I saw no specific plan other than just going. And I remember Kennedy, I believe it was Kennedy, talking about the fact that, we were going to beat the Russians and get to the moon. And it's like, if that's all it was competitiveness, and that was stupid. So that's your answer.
Yeah, yeah. It sure feels like that may have been the main thrust of it for sure.
Mhm.
But 12 white men have walked on the surface of the moon, and with our return in 2024, they're planning to send the first woman to the moon. And I was wondering if you thought that was if that affects your excitement about us going back or not.
You know what? It probably does. I don't have any information on that, but I would probably say yes. It does. I think that um, when you look at exploring, that women and men equally have talent in that area. And I think that there are two viewpoints, gender wise, that women see one thing and men see another thing in the same view. And so having both collaborate together, come together, and look at whatever they're going to be doing would make sense. And I also think that we need to explore beyond that or go beyond that and not just have women. I think diversity, period, is important. So having a complete diversity of people being on the moon. Let's send Black people, let's send Asian people, let's send different cultures, because those cultures are all going to have a specific interest as well. But staying with the women thing, yes, I think it would give me more excitement to know that a woman was going. And of course, I'd be scared as heck for her too, because the last time there was a woman, well, that's not true, because they've had women on spaceships since then. But I very well, I could close my eyes and see the explosion to this day. So it's kind of scary, you know.
It is. Um, so what do you see like the humanity looks like in like 500 years from now? Do you think we're still specifically like on the Earth making these little side trips into space, or do you really see humanity branching out into the rest of the solar system and maybe what we think of as being far away changes radically, like it sort of did with airline travel?
Yeah, airline travel was a big thing. Oh, I have two answers for that. One of them you may not want to hear, but
I probably want to hear that one the most then.
well, you probably don't. I don't know that I've ever told you, but my whole thing behind learning Hindi is that I'm a Jehovah's Witness. And so we teach people the Bible and we learn other languages because it makes sense. Like I don't want to, even if you speak English and you're from India, your language of your heart is going to be Hindi or Malayalam or Telugu or Tamil or whatever it is. And so to reach somebody's inner soul, an inner person, you have to really be able to communicate with them in their way. So based on the Jehovah's Witness side, I would say in 500 years, the system is completely over. All of the unrighteous people are no longer on the earth, and all of the righteous people have inherited the earth, and we are free to explore wherever we're allowed to go according to Jehovah. So it could be anywhere in the universe. And you know that's my spiritual answer. If I were to say, based on just human alone and take that completely out, which is hard, but taking that completely out, um, I would be in fear that in 500 years from now, well, actually, no, let me say that. Let me rephrase that. 500 years from now, I would think that there would be a legacy left by, I can see his face, can't think of his name. Uh, anyway, you know who I'm talking about with the private guy that's financing spaceships.
Oh, Elon Musk.
That's his name, Elon Musk. I could see that there would be a legacy left by him and a company formed by him that would carry on and continue to do things for financial gain so that they could continue to finance these sorts of trips and in checking out Mars and the moon and other planets as much as the human body could withhold. I don't think politically that you're going to see that happening because I think there's too much fighting politically between countries and within countries to finance and put together a plan that's really going to benefit humanity. So that I think would have to come from private contributors.
Now, I knew about your interest in learning Hindi before, actually. So,
Oh, I wasn't sure if you did or not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. And even if you're not able to really reach them in their native language, it's definitely impactful to see the effort of somebody trying to bridge the gap, right? I mean, so often it's like you need to come to me, and it's nice to see people take steps towards going to them. So I definitely applaud your efforts there.
Thank you.
But I am kind of curious in sort of like the timing of like I have a little history. Uh, Back in high school, I wanted to be a missionary and go around the world and be on the mercy ships and convert everybody to Christianity. So I really used to study the Bible a lot. Um, and it talks about how nobody knows the day or the hour of the return and what have you. And I think the perception was, and like immediately after Jesus's resurrection, people really felt like that. And even Jesus talked about, there would be some people here that wouldn't pass before he comes again. Um, and I think a lot of people really felt like it was fairly imminent at that point. And, it's been fairly imminent, feeling probably ever since then to now. Is there any reason to suspect that it's like 500 years versus 5,000 years? I mean, like, what are your thoughts?
That's a good question. No, there's no definitive time whatsoever. However, there are certain scriptures that give us a glimpse into a time frame that it would be. And 2 Timothy 3:1 through 5 actually spells out how people will be during the last days. And we are so there. I mean, if you get a chance, if you don't already know it, look at 2 Timothy 3:1 through 5. And I don't think there's any piece of that you couldn't put a check mark by, as to how people are today, having no affection for others, no natural affection, haughty, puffed up with pride, not open to any agreement, slanderous. All of this is happening, and we see it around us. The other thing is that the Bible does talk about the fact that it's like a pregnant woman. So when you look at a pregnant woman, you don't know when she's going to give birth. You don't know the hour or the day or the time that she's going to give birth, but you know it's close because there's obvious signs. She's very large, and all this. And so if you look at the signs that are going on right now, on the earth, then one could say that this is a very, very, very pregnant woman. But again, we don't know. Just like the creative days, the creative days, so many believe that God literally created the heavens and the earth in 7 24-hour periods. And actually, in the Bible, it's referred to Jehovah that a day to him is like 1,000 years to man.
Hmm.
And so if you take just that meaning and that logic and apply it to the creative days, those days could have easily been 7,000 years instead of 7 days, 7 24-hour periods of time. And so we don't know. 9 months in pregnancy, let's say, could be 90,000 years to God. So I'm just seeing that we are getting further and further and further into prophecy being fulfilled. So we have more and more pandemics that are coming. COVID-19, we had SARS before that, which COVID is part of SARS. There are so many of those things happening, so many earthquakes, so many fires. The earth is really being brought to ruin by the fact that nobody is paying attention, or should I say nobody that has any ability to do anything about it is paying attention to climate change. I don't so much call it global warming, although I think that's a piece of it, as climate change, and how that's affecting life on Earth, and the fires in California and the earthquakes that are occurring, and all of these things. So we put all those together, and I believe that if this system lasts another 500 years, that will be a long time, personally. Now, whether it's going to happen in my lifetime or not, I have no idea. I kind of hope it will, because there are people who the Bible says will walk into the new system and who will never die. But then again, if you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, we also very strongly believe in Psalm 37 and other scriptures, but Psalm 37, 10, and 11, which talks about the fact that the earth is going to be where most people will reside. And so I don't want to leave this earth. I think it's beautiful. So anyway, you can get me going on that, so I'm going to be quiet.
I would love to get you going on that and to fully explore it, because I think that's a very important sort of perspective to have, is to what degree is this world real and important versus maybe some other world? Are we in like some type of meta system, and there's lots of things hidden from us. I mean, you see kind of manifestations are kind of expressions of this thought in many places in society, in many forms. Some people are saying, this is just a simulation. We might all be brains and containers someplace, interacting with each other, or what have you. So it's definitely an interesting thing to explore, but I think we definitely have to have a follow-up at some point. Maybe in person
Yes.
after this COVID-19 thing is
That
over.
would be so wonderful. And I'm always open to doing Zooms and all that good stuff. So you just let me know when you'd like to chat. I'm open to just open concept chatting. I'm open to whatever suits you. And I'd love to hear about your past. I mean, wanting to be a missionary is fabulous. I mean, I definitely would love to have that opportunity. And one of the things that I laughed about with my husband is that I could go and do preaching work in Italy, And he's like, well, you don't speak Italian. And I said, yeah, I know, but there are English congregations, so I could still go to Italy and do work where the need is greater, where people are there are not so many teaching, and I could still teach, and I could still use my native language and while I'm learning Italian, and such. But anyway, there's so much fun stuff that I would like to do in that regard in teaching people, because I believe that our only hope is really in the Bible. That there's no hope in Trump, there's no hope in Biden, there's no hope in any man. In Jeremiah, it says that it does not belong to man to even direct his own steps. So therefore, I certainly can't believe that any politician is going to come in and be able to clean this up.
Yeah, indeed. And when the problem is ourselves and politics reflects ourselves, then it's just more of the problem.
You're so right. You are so right. But I would love to absolutely meet again and just explore your background and where you came from. Because what I know of you more has to do with the fact that you married a lady from India and you learned Hindi and you have this blended family, which I thought was amazing. That you used to be at Compaq, which is a place that I was almost at. That I was that close to working there. But we have so many things that from when I met you that I felt we had in common. And then now just getting to know your heart even more, you definitely have a very inviting heart. So.
Well, I definitely, I did have one last question though. If it
Okay.
was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
No.
No. Why? Because why not?
I knew that question was coming. I probably shouldn't be so fast to say no because it's not safe and affordable right now.
Right.
So it's easy to say no. And I have an extremely open mind. However, I will tell you that when I get on an airplane, I am praying like crazy as we're taxiing down the runway that should anything happen, that Jehovah give me the grace to just die and not feel any pain. And I'm praying upon landing, because once you get in the air, you're good to go. There's pretty much never any issue unless somebody throws a bomb at you or something, or shoots a missile at you. But the takeoff and the landing, I'm not going to kid you. I am praying, and so I can't imagine the prayers that I would have to give to allow myself to even get on something that's not only going to go up but go outside of the Earth's atmosphere. Um, at the same time, I think the G-force would be awesome to experience. I'm one of those crazy people who go on those rides in parks that take you up really high and drop you just to get that feeling of woo. But the going up scares me. So I literally have to go up with my eyes closed, and I'm literally like totally white by the time I get up there because I don't like height. But the drop is amazing.
Hmm.
So, yeah, very strange person over here. Okay.
You like you don't like being high, but you like moving quickly.
Yes, yes, yes. I like the thrill of the fall. I like driving very fast. Like, my dream is to be in a race car on a racetrack going 200 and some miles an hour would be amazing to me. So that's why I say, if it were guaranteed safe, as guaranteed as anything can be, and affordable, maybe. But right now, my initial inclination is I don't know that they would ever make it safe enough where I would feel that it was safe.
That makes sense to me. Well, Leslie, I really appreciate your time, and I feel like we could probably talk for days, actually. So,
I'm so with you, Nathan.
well, you have a good rest of your day, and we should try to make that happen in the next few months or so.
Let's do that. And I do a couple of things, but one of them is I am a coach. And so let's take the word should out. And how about I send you a note with a suggestion for some dates sometime toward the end of November?
That sounds awesome.
Okay. So I'm going to write that in a note because my brain forgets things. Yeah, I'm having surgery on my eyes in October and November, so it would be toward the end, and that way I could actually see you.
Sounds like that may that may help, but not required.
Well, I would like that because it's just good to see who you're talking with. But yeah, I will send you a note. Give me a day or so to look at things. I've got a couple of appointments coming up that I need to tend to, but I will send you a note, and then we'll find something and we'll figure out whether it's Zoom or in person yet or what have you.
Sounds good.
All right.
Looking forward to it, and you have a good rest of your day.
You too, and thank you for inviting me for this. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Bye bye now.